God's Word. Today, November 1st, and we are in John chapter 18, and it begins with going from the Last Supper to the brook Kidron, where there was a garden. And verse 2 tells us, it says, "Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, for Jesus often met there with his disciples." And, we're not given the details of all that, but it just seems like Jesus is not hiding. Right? That's what that verse is telling us, verse 2. And so it's not going to be a surprise when Judas shows up with the officials to arrest Jesus a little later. The hour has come. And so he didn't keep hiding. He stayed. Why? Because there's a timeline. He's going to submit to the will of the Father. And so as they come, right, with all of the paraphernalia and all of the people, verse 4 says, Jesus, knowing all that would happen, came forward and said, "Whom do you seek?" Remember, Jesus' picture isn't out there. He's not on Twitter. He's not a face recognizable in the sense that we have today with celebrities or people. Very easily we could track someone, or we could tell who someone is with photos and videos and all those kinds of things. That just wasn't a thing. And so they said, "Well, Jesus of Nazareth." And Jesus said, "I am he." And when he said, "I am he," verse 6, they drew back and fell to the ground. Why? It doesn't tell us why. And so we have to kind of go, why? Why did they fall back when he says, "I am he"? He didn't likely take on a different voice. It didn't, become thunderous. "I am," right? It's just that simple realization. The truth. Well, Jesus said the truth will set you free. And in this case, it caused at least a momentary pause for all those who heard him declare, "I am he," right? And so they asked him again, "Jesus of Nazareth, I told you I'm he. So if you seek me, let these men go." He's thinking of others. He's thinking of the disciples. And so they all scattered, except not right away. Notice verse 10. Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it, struck the high priest's servant, cut off his right ear. That servant's name was Malchus. And Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword into its sheath. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" This is the time, Peter. Other Gospels tell us that Jesus heals Malchus's ear. And so, we have the beginning of then going to high priest and, all these trials and all these things. But the next part is Peter's betrayal of Jesus. And on one side, you think, how could he get to that place? How could he get to that point? And then the other side, we have to go, we probably would have done the same. No, I wouldn't. Well, think of the intense pressure that was going on around everything that was happening. This big crowd of armed men show up to arrest Jesus, and he cuts off the ear, and Jesus heals him, and now they lead him away, and the disciples, those that are left, they didn't scatter completely, which we find out really is just Peter and John, who follow at a distance. And it didn't fit. Remember, they're looking for Messiah to be ruler king. And so when Jesus is coming as not that in the sense of this world right now, right? He's laying down his life. There's no place for that. And so for everything to happen this way, the lateness, it's middle of the night is going on, and, getting all these questions, and it gets to that place where by the time morning comes and he denies Jesus. It's hard to get much lower. But in our lives, there are times, I think, where maybe we don't have it like that, but when we fail to do what's right, when we don't acknowledge, when we, try to make it not uncomfortable for others, and so pull back, you know. In all of this, Jesus is going to the cross. And they're having a hard time nailing him down, you know, and eventually when he gets to Pilate. And so it reminds us, you know, even with Peter and his life and the decisions he's making here, is that even though it looks like everything is happening to him, to Jesus that is, God's still in control. And Jesus is laying down his life. And so we read it and just in awe that he's willingly doing this. Going through the sham of these trials, going through, you know, being for the Romans and all these things. To what end? There's no other way. That had become clear in the garden. If there's another way, let's go with that. But not my will, but your will be done. He's surrendered to the will of the Father. May that be true in our lives today as well. Until next time, keep growing little by little.